Welcome to Old Tricks, New Platform, Developing Best Practices for Virtual Learning. Our first presenters come to us from Washington County Public Schools. Carolyn Schlegel teaches Spanish at Smithsburg High School. She's a passionate educator who is committed to her students, professional development, and advocating for world language education. Aubrey Swisher teaches Spanish at Boonesboro High School. Equally passionate, Aubrey endeavors to keep students learning current and relevant to help them gain deeper understandings, which then allows them to reach beyond the perimeters of Maryland and into the world at large. We are delighted to welcome them and their session, and now I'm going to turn the session over to the ladies.
Well, hello and welcome to our session. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that this sharing our passions together with such a diverse group gives us so much joy and is really rejuvenating for us in this profession as well.
There we go. Finally popped up for me. Hey guys, we are Acquisition. I am Carolyn Schlegel, as we were introduced, and we just want to say hi and welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. We feel like Patrick may have had our slides as we were listening to his empowering speech this morning, rejuvenating everything that we are and do right now as educators. And we hope to share some things with you today that will help you anchor and stretch and be able to move forward in your virtual teaching and grow with us today. So welcome. First things first, we're going to play a little, this is not a little game, but it's something that we use in our classes. So we want to make sure that this activity, this whole entire session is interactive for you, modeling best practices and making sure that you're engaged in the session and not just sitting and getting from us. So what we'd love for you to do right now as we prep everything, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself with your name, location, and content in the chat. We want to see who's out there.
We call this activity Flood the Chat. It is so easy to employ off the cuff. You could have originally had it in your plan or not, and you can just do it. And it gets your students engaged. It promotes quick interaction between the whole group or between the teacher and specific students. And then if you know that you want to use the chat feature later on in your lesson, it's also great to do something like this at the very beginning because it familiarizes all of the students with the chat feature. They know where it is. They're paying attention to when they have the little indicator that a new message has arrived.
It's so great to meet all of you and see where you're all from. The diversity among our population from across not only the state of Maryland, but we actually, I know, had an international registration. So we're so grateful that you guys have come together on this Saturday morning to share your experiences with us.
Well, hello and welcome. Yeah, this is so exciting to see who is on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You might even see some names in here. Maybe you can find, a partner to team up with, because I know Patrick was so speaking to me about, finding a partner and sharing the tasks, and you challenge and motivate each other and support each other the whole time along the way. And I feel like I have been so blessed because I have been able to find my partner, and I'm so grateful to have somebody that I feel is in the same boat as me and who pushes me and lifts me up when I need lifted, or is just there to have some fun. And that's Caroline for me.
We have shared some great things today in our presentation. So we want to look at our objectives here and taking a look at what we have planned for today. We're looking at adapting our own old tricks to increase student engagement in the virtual classroom.
And then we want to be able for you to say, I can adapt my instruction. So not starting from scratch, but I can adapt my instruction to meet the needs of digital learning.
We're going to use a feature called Zoom Poll really quickly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push a poll to you. The two questions are going to pop up in the poll, and we would like to have all of our participants answer that. This is a very quick and easy way if you're using a Zoom platform, or I believe all of the other platforms for virtual for virtual learning and virtual teaching right now include some type of feature to poll your kids. So with the Zoom poll, we have 2 questions. What style of teaching are you currently using? And then what platform are you using to meet with students? So I'm going to push this poll to everybody. And if you would, some stuff out of the way here. Here we go. When I launch the poll, you should have an opportunity to answer this poll really quickly. What I love about this feature is that you don't have to back out of your program at all. You can use it directly in the slides so that you can gather data in real time and make your learning adjustments as you're teaching in your lesson. It's very quick. As you can see, you're answering the 2 questions. The information is popping up on my end. I can see that 88 of 137 of our participants have already answered. I can watch the calculation increase, and then I can share poll results. Okay, so 94 have answered. I'm going to share results now so you can see this. And you can see we have the majority of our participants teaching fully virtual. Okay, we have some hybrid and also some face-to-face. So we're all facing different situations right now in our classrooms. One thing for sure is that all of the things that we'll give to you today and share with you today can be used for any of these platforms and any of the learning situations and teaching situations that are facing educators in our reality right now.
All right, next, I would love for you to annotate the screen and participate in a quick social emotional learning check. These are fun. They can kind of be an icebreaker, but they're also really helpful in letting teachers and students know where everybody's coming from. And then you can kind of, adjust how you're interacting with people because you know where they are and what they need in that moment. This was inspired by Berta Delgadillo. She shares some resources on Twitter and she put a few examples there, and I loved this. And so this is something that we wanted to share with you and show you how easy it can be. You can make it entertaining or you can make it serious. But if you could use in the annotation tool, there's a stamp that you can choose, and you can just put your stamp underneath the photo that you are most relating to, which one speaks most to you in regards to how you feel with virtual teaching right now.
So I see lots of people are using some of the different annotation features. You can, and we'll talk about these in a few minutes, but you can literally put a stamp on it, like you see the hearts and the stars and the check marks, or you can do what some of our other participants are doing and draw directly on the screen. Okay. And we are all over the place, aren't we? All of us have different feelings about what's going on right now, different experiences. I love the circle that you just put there.
This is me. Yes, very, very enthusiastic answer there, emphatic.
Also, one of the great features about this is you can see who's annotating the screen, or you can remove the feature where students are annotating the screen and you don't have to see their names. I really enjoy being able to see the students' names just because we want to keep everything under wraps.
Also really easy to provide personal feedback then and the praise when you can see the names popping up, and then you can make a little mental note of who's participating and who you might have to send a chat to on the side and make sure they're doing all right and that they're there and all is well.
Awesome. Yep, this is a beautiful, beautiful masterpiece we've created here, team. Thanks for that. I'm going to go ahead and clear all the drawings and ask that the annotation would stop. Thank you guys for participating in that. This is really great. It's a great feature to use to adapt some of our games, and we'll talk about those a little bit later too. Awesome. All right, let me go here. Yeah. All right, so essentially, Aubrey and I, at the beginning of this school year, and of course at the end of last school year, combined, the two of us, we have over 25 years of teaching experience. And so one of the things that was really important to us is we sat down not only with each other, but with our supervisor and other teachers who volunteer their time to look at curriculum and develop best practices. And we had this mindset, instead of starting from scratch, right, we need to remodel. Right. And that spoke to what Patrick was saying earlier about being adaptive. We have to figure out what it is that we're doing now and how we can push forward. And that's exactly what Aubrey and I feel like we've been able to do together as partners.
Okay, so we already did a few of our low-tech tools, the flood the chat, the annotation tool, and the SEL checks, the social emotional learning checks. So another one that we really love because it's so easy. You can do it, it can be originally in your plan, or again, you can kind of read your audience, see how the class is going, and if it seems beneficial, do it off the cuff, right in the moment. My students know it as yo no or not I. And so what they do is they listen or they read a sentence. And if they identify with it, they keep their camera on, the camera's on. If it does not speak to them, it does not, it's not true for them, they put their cameras off. We can try this in a minute if you're willing. But I love it because it's a simple and visual way to get quick feedback, but you can also identify similarities and differences, or even get some student experts on a topic, right? We're doing travel in level 4 right now, and I wanted to know who had actually navigated an airport. If I'm just, throwing these things at you and you've never been there, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So I did a quick camera on, camera off activity, and then we were able to get 10 other students in my class of 35 that could kind of lead breakout rooms and help share the knowledge, and not just make it me, but then we can have some student-driven instruction as well. So if you would like to try camera off, camera on, I know most of us are in the off position right now, so you can turn your camera on if you agree with one of these things. So number 1, I have hosted an international guest in my virtual learning environment. You can go ahead and turn your camera on if your answer is yes. Great, and as you can see how it works, normally the people that turn their cameras on, they go up to the top or the front of the line, so you can quickly identify those people. Let's try number 2. I have successfully shared my screen with students without having to announce, okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. Have you done it? I know that's a personal challenge I set for myself every day, and I can do it for a class period, but I have not fully made it through a day yet.
I love seeing everybody's faces. Great.
All right, last one. I have recreated the scene from Titanic or something close to it while addressing students in the virtual classroom. Think back. Is anyone alive out there? Can anyone hear me?
Aubrey and I were laughing earlier. I was like, Jack, there's a boat. Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so that was the cameras off, camera on. Hopefully you see that it was a fairly simple activity to do, and we did get some smiling faces, so that was great.
Super important. Smiles are always important. We all need a little joy. That was another very important piece, yeah. Our last piece on the low-tech parts is called Secret Word, and it's a little bit like taboo. And so, hold on, let me move this. Look, I'm now talking out loud about what I'm doing behind the scenes over here. If I go over here to the chat, I'm gonna pick one person, and I'm going to send this person a word in the chat. Okay, this is a circumlocution game. The students are getting a word in the target language, and then the students are creating a definition to be able to share out loud with the other students. They don't type it in the chat. This is a speaking activity on the students' part. So the students are trying to understand what the other students are saying. So I am going to pick my víctima, and my víctima is, let me see. And the word is, if you get this word in your chat, okay, I want you to try and describe this word without saying the word. And if you know what it is by the person's descriptions, then you say it.
You can unmute for that, or you can put it in the chat. I'm so excited.
Rooftop tomorrow.
Perfect. What time?
There it is, and then we're going to Cafe Milan.
All right. Allison Maurer, I am sending this to you.
Okay, this is a tasty breakfast treat, and it's very high in carbs. Some people like to take the top of it off and throw out the bottom.
Bagel.
Close.
The chat is blowing up with the right answer. It's a muffin. Applauso. Good job, Allison.
Hey.
All right. Lisa Miller, this word is coming your way.
This is something we would all like to be on, perhaps in the middle of our distance learning. It's an opportunity for rest and sightseeing and traveling.
Sorry, some of the comments.
Said drugs and I am dying. That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Lisa, that was great. A cruise, caffeine. Oh my gosh, guys. Yes. All of these things. All of these things. BGS says LSD, the lower, slower Delaware. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. What great answers. All right. And then, I am going to pick, I spoke with, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, John, but John, is it Wilds or Wildes?
It's Wilds.
Okay, Wilds, perfect. Should have went with my first instinct. I'm going to send you the final word.
Okay, this is something warm and fuzzy that you might put on your footsies.
A small dog.
Socks. Yes, definitely. Socks, stockies, all of the things, right? So this is a lot of fun. Thank you, John, for that. Thank you to all of our volunteers, Allison and Lisa. We appreciate, actually you were voluntold, but we really do appreciate that. We love getting those students talking. We love hearing what they have to say. We love listening to their language develop. And this is a really fun and quick, and honestly, this is a pretty no prep situation on behalf of the teacher, and all of us need something that is low prep right now. Speaking of stuff that is low prep, we have, not necessarily the things that we're sharing are low prep, but we have developed a resource folder for you guys. So any activity that we share during this presentation will be given to you in a template form and a link at the end, so you can take the activities that we are doing and you can adapt them for the language that you teach. So we will be providing a resource folder for you guys to copy any of the documents that we share with you today. Also, I love that you guys are playing with the annotations. It's so funny to see you jump up on the screen with your annotations. We are not in an annotation point right now, but we will be able to use the annotations here in a minute. So if you could hold your annotations for me, that would be amazing.
All right, games. Everybody knows that games are fun, right? And they also help us to reinforce a lot of concepts that we cover in the world language classroom. So whenever we started planning, we wanted to make sure that we identified the games that are already on the screen and just keep using them. Kids already know what to do. We just need to share our screen like we would usually project in the classroom, and that's pretty seamless. So we have a few Old Faithfuls. So this is kind of the trifecta of the ones that we think are really well known, and actually you can use both synchronously and asynchronously. So there's Kahoot. If you haven't tried the Kahoot challenge, that's the way to kind of assign it for students for one-on-one practice. But of course, just share your screen and you can still play it live. Quizlet, there are activities that you can do asynchronously. They can play Match, Gravity, or play Quizlet live in your class with everyone all together. Again, just make sure you share your screen and the kids will get the code and they can jump right in. And then we also mentioned GimKit. GimKit is lots of fun. It mixes practice with strategy. You know, the kids have to answer quickly and they also have to kind of play around with money and see, you know, oh, what's the smart thing to do? Not just what is the smart answer, but what's my strategic piece? So it can mix things up a little bit in the classroom. And that is another one that is easy to play synchronously. That's how it was originally designed. But they have actually made a homework mode too. So if you want to assign asynchronous GimKit, your kids also can do that. And with both Kahoot and GimKit, you will get a score report so that you can see who participated and how they did. Great formative assessment. But the ones that were on the screen, that was great. But what about the ones that aren't? So a lot of us in this room, I know I have seen things on Twitter or Facebook and have heard things within my own county about Matamoscas. What about Matamoscas, the fly swatter game? So we made sure that we were looking at that and figuring out, okay, how can I play this game still? Because it's one of the kids' favorites. How can I play this still with them being on the other side of a screen and I'm here? So we have 3 ways that we're going to show you. The first one is pretty easy. Caroline just told you we were coming back to the annotation tool and we are back. So if you could just listen to Caroline, she's going to give you a prompt. If you know the answer, circle the number or the picture that you think she is referencing.
Okay. All right. We're just going to go very basic right now. You can do this as a scaffolded activity as well with your students. So you could just start by saying the word or, right, play that round. And then you could go back to it and use definitions or use cool facts or use whatever you want to make the game a little, you know, I don't know, more scaffolded. Bring it up, right? Bring it up a notch. Here we go. So I'm going to pick... circle the place that represents, or circle the place that is Germany.
Okay, so find Germany and hurry up.
Find Germany and circle. Yes.
Yay, and look at all these parts. Yes. You can see
okay.
the names on.
All right, so I'm going to ask that we hold our drawings. I'm going to clear all the drawings from my end. Okay. Japan.
Great job.
Nice work. Okay. Italy. Nice. Peru. The Arc de Triomphe is here. Ah.
Look at the Spanish teacher whipping out some French here.
Look, ask Arlene White about how good my French accent is. Awesome. Okay, so as you can see, this is a really quick and easy way. Just put some pictures on the screen and allow the kids to annotate the screen to identify the places. This is really, again, great formative assessment so that we can figure out who's where, what do we need to reteach, what do we need to address.
And also the common, misconceptions. We could see if the majority got one answer and there were a few that were all circling the second answer that wasn't correct. You can see, okay, where's the confusion, and adjust your teaching that way. Okay, so there's a second way to use this same slide. You can see that we have it named at the top, Fly Swatter, whole group with breakout rooms. It's super fun, in my opinion, and in my students. We've taken it out for a drive a few times, and we're gonna tell you how to do it. It's easy, but you just have a few steps that you need to do. Okay, so this team version we created after our interest was sparked by Rich Medell on Twitter and Facebook. He was talking about fly swatter, and we wanted to figure out how we can make this a whole group thing, make teams and have the kids playing against each other in teams. So the first thing that you need to do is create your Google slide with the images. Now, I would highly recommend having a separate presentation. Okay, that is just your slide. You're going to mark that anyone can edit it. That's why I say put it in a separate tab, a separate presentation. Anybody has editing access. Now you move to step 2. Copy and paste that link to students in the chat. Make sure before you send them to breakout rooms, everybody has clicked the link in the chat. So I do ask a few times, you have it? Do you have it? Are you on it? And you can also look at your copy and see all of their little initials at the top. Step 3, you're going to assign breakout rooms. Tell students that they are going to find the response box that matches their room number. So breakout room 1 is going to put their responses in group 1. Okay. The last thing, open those rooms. Now broadcast a clue. So you're going to use the broadcast feature on the breakout room tab, and you're going to type, or if you're super prepared, you can have pre-typed things up that you just copy and paste, put it in the broadcast feature, and that's going to come across the screen for all of the students. They're going to race to get their answer. So they're just going to pull our number here. We had numbered pictures. They'll put the number in their group box, and then the first group that gets it right, you can award some points. So it's really fun to give them that feedback. The whole time that we're doing this, I have my kids in the breakout rooms, right? And I have my slides so I can see everybody putting their answers in at once. You want to leave it out of present mode. So you can see the screenshot of whenever I did this. I do not have it in present mode on my end because I want to be able to see who's doing the editing in real time. So that's what it will look like. And then this is the version, the individual groups with breakout rooms, that very much came from Rich Medell and his sharing of resources. So we're doing a similar thing to him. He was having the kids drag the actual image or phrase to the box, and we just said, we don't want to rework what we just did. Let's keep our numbers, and they'll put the numbers in their separate boxes. So here, you're going to have multiple slides, one slide per breakout room. Okay, it's still going to be in a presentation, but you'll have a different slide that the kids will go to per breakout room. Now, if I was in a room with 3 other people and I am player 4, instead of playing with them, that's who I'm playing against. I'm hoping that's making sense. The same thing, the kids, as they hear Peru, right? They'll take the number and and hurry up and type 3 in their box, and they'll play within their small groups. You won't keep the score for them this time. They'll keep it amongst themselves.
It's really fun. You would make, like if you had 5 breakout rooms, you're going to have 5 copies of this slide. And we have made a copy of one of these set up for you, so you can take it and adapt it to make it what you want it to be, so that you don't have to worry about creating, the little individual boxes. We've done that if you want to use this. The directions are also scripted on the presentation that we put in the resource folder that we'll share with you. So if what Aubrey was saying, you are a person that likes to read things or do things, go through that presentation, take a look at that, and it will help explain what Aubrey just shared with us in terms of really understanding how to use this as a teacher and what it looks like on your end as a teacher. Go back to this. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about interactive slides and collaborative slides here. There we go. I'm going to back out of this really quickly, and we're going to try something. I like to do this, and this was inspired, this particular idea was again inspired by Rich Medell in a NECTFL presentation that I went to that showcased the image model. But this is a really great template to use for having students, put things in categories or columns. And so my students are able to go in, we give them editing rights to this slide, right? And they can drag together and figure out what goes where. Okay, what goes where. All of them can do it together. We can address what's going on. If there are, we can see issues. We can see if there's misunderstandings. We can see where we need to align our instruction a little bit better, what we need to reinforce. Aubrey, I think in interest of time, we should probably skip playing this with everybody.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
But as you can see, guys, you would just go in and you would share this slide with your students. You would take it out of present mode. If you take it out of present mode, you can see everything that's going on. If it's in present mode, you can't see the progress of the students that are on this slide. So we did this with our level 5 kids recently. And we actually did products, practices, and perspectives. And we were looking at what do the students understand about the cultural iceberg, looking at the cultural comparison for our AP classes. And so they're dragging and dropping these different things into the categories so that we could see, do they really understand what products, practices, and perspectives are? Do they understand how they work together? So we were able to get kind of like an idea, a general consensus of what kids were really understanding. Drag and drop can really be used for any content. You can drag and drop pictures to match vocab words. You can drag and drop whatever you want to do. We did put a template for this in our resource folder. Another great drag and drop Google Slides. One of the things that I've learned via virtual teaching is that Google Slides is much more user-friendly than Google Docs. I can manipulate pictures on Google Docs so much more easily. And so this particular activity, we had our students, it's a 2-step activity, okay? We assigned a Google slide that looked like the one on the left, okay, to our students. And students were in charge of writing a story that included at least one vocab word per box on the left-hand side. There were 6 boxes, okay? Those were due in the evening, right? So then after they were all turned in, I copied all of them, put them in a Google presentation, and shared that Google presentation with my students and gave them editing rights. They had to pick one slide. They had to pick one slide to then go in, read the story that was authored by their classmates in the left-hand column, and bold and underline the words that were the vocabulary words that the student used, while also finding and putting a picture in the right-hand side. Again, Google Slides is excellent for this because students can easily manipulate, drag and drop photos, whereas Google Docs, you kind of have to finagle things and it sets boundaries and it interrupts the words, etc. We loved this because it allowed our students to be the creators of the language. It allowed our students to be able to utilize the vocabulary that we're learning. It allowed us to see, do students know this vocabulary? Are they using it correctly? And then can someone else understand what they're saying? And so what I love about that is it's empowering for the students. They can see that someone actually is understanding what they're writing, which is a cool realization as someone like, yeah, I just produced language. That's awesome, right? And so this is a way to kind of empower your students to feel really good about what they're doing, but also give them a chance to be creative. We also did tell them, and we are much about giving students choice in terms of the way that they complete their assignments. And so students could drop pictures in, or they could draw pictures that would represent the vocabulary. So it was really interesting to see some of the information that came back, see what kinds of pictures, see what kinds of things students did. So I love being able to offer that choice. Virtually, it is interesting to be able to provide choice because it does, sometimes it does create more work on our part as teachers looking at the different documents that are turned in terms of how to give feedback, but it's still super important to give students an option to express their creativity because that makes them feel super empowered in the classroom.
So in addition to collaborative slides, You can use collaborative docs. So we're going to use Google Docs right now to talk about how we can have some quick conversations or do group questions and answers. But both of these activities through docs are going to promote your interpersonal tasks, and the kids, the students get to interact again with each other. They are understanding each other's language. Here is one sample. This is what we were calling our quick combos. So you can see on the left, that is a screenshot of our slide presentation that we have, where we just have inserted images. Okay, and then on the right, you're going to see the student view of a shared Google Doc. Your Google Doc can be blank, but everybody can view, or it can have some extra instructions on it. But what you want to do is share that blank Google Doc with students via the chat feature. Again, make sure everybody clicks on it. You might have to say it 3 times before they go into their breakout room. Once that's confirmed, push them into their rooms. Okay. Give a 2-step prompt. That way both people have something to say, and it's not just like, oh, there's Caroline, the head of the class, and she always knows the answer, and oh, she said it, I have nothing to say. Make sure there's multiple steps, at least 2, so that they can take turns and go back and forth. So for this example, we were doing natural disasters, and we asked, what is the natural disaster, and what is something that you can do to prepare? How would you prepare? Every so often, depending on the prompt, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, get what feels good for your group. But every interval, you're going to copy the photo that you have in your Google Slides, so it's already prepared for you, and then you're just going to paste it in the Google Doc. So the kids will see every 20 seconds, their picture is changing, and that prompts them to change their conversation.
This replaces, if you've ever played something, it's kind of like the, I might butcher how to say this, pachakacha or pichakucha or whatever that term is, or the speed conversation. So if you have kids in your classroom physically standing and talking to each other, and a new picture flashes and they have to find a new partner and talk about that, this is the virtual way to replace those speed conversations that you're having in your classroom.
This is really fun too. It was so successful that I've started using it even more often in my classroom. But this is a task trade via Google Doc. So again, you want to take a little bit of time on your end, and then the kids do everything else, and it's really amazing. There's our screenshot of what our Google Doc starts out like. Put some instructions for them, and then you're going to create a table. Figure out how many kids that you have in your class and how you'll want to group them. And then you'll make rows, right? And column 1 will end up being your first task, the first round, the creation, okay? You can see for this one, we were having students create definitions. We're practicing circumlocution and vocabulary. And then on the second column, you want to go ahead and name that whatever you want the kids to do. We wanted the other groups to guess the word that the first group had described. So you notice that the boxes are kind of going diagonal, right, with matching colors, so that kids can clearly see their group number, but they can also use the color to guide them. So task 1, I know I'm purple. This is where I am in group 1. We're creating definitions or maybe questions, okay? And then whenever you make the announcement or when they finish, they'll move to the second column, but you have to follow your color. So now group 1 sees that they need to read what group 2 wrote, and they need to answer that. If they were coming up with a word, they'll put the word. If they needed to answer a question, they can answer the question in that box. Here are 2 examples of what that might look like. So on the left-hand side is whenever this was our first one. We did in our first week of classes, but it went well, and that's why we started adapting it in other ways. So this was a reading activity. They read and then they annotated an article. In groups, they talked together and they came up with questions. What are some comprehension questions that you could ask, knowing that the information is provided in the article? Then they swapped, and so they followed their color, and they looked right across to see what was this group asking me, Okay, and then they collaborated again to provide their answers. You can see on the right was the definition task, again, very early, and it was also a great check for us to see where our students were language-wise. So they used their circumlocution, they came up with self-constructed definitions or descriptions of the word, and then they went and they guessed what the other students were describing.
Both of these templates are in our resource folder too, so that if you choose to use this, it's ready to go for you. All you have to do is pull it up and figure out what task you want to do with your students.
Something great too about doing that is you don't have to keep popping in and out of breakout rooms to monitor that. You have that on your screen and you can see everything in real time as they're typing. It's great. And sometimes you can jump in to the doc too, go into their box, and I usually highlight a different color and I can type some feedback to them or change the color of their font and private message them and say, I want you to look at anything that's yellow and see if you can fix that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really nice way to be able to provide feedback because you're only looking at that one document. So I totally agree with that for sure. Another way to easily see what all of your students are doing is by using a breakout monitor. And this idea, again, inspired by our PLN on Twitter. This was a Hello Teacher lady, or at Shayna Teaches on Twitter. She shared so kindly this amazing idea of using a breakout room note taker as a teacher. And so essentially, this is literally her slide. So this is not my work. This is not Aubrey's work, but this is Shayna's slide that she created, and she shared it out on Twitter with the whole Twitter universe, which was super kind of her because it helped really get our brains thinking about, wait, how can we use this? This is awesome. So basically what happens is you create a series of slides and you find the breakout room number, you give kids breakout rooms, and you make sure that they know on their slides that they have to go to the breakout room with their slide number. So breakout room 1, it's in a Google presentation. It's in, you send the link to them in the chat. They click on it, right? Everybody opens this document before you send them to breakout rooms because everybody needs to have access to this document and they need to have editable access to this document. So once they get there, right, students are going to see a prompt, okay, on their breakout room slide. Students collaborate with each other to develop their responses to whatever it is that you're asking students to do. So most recently, this is an example from my class and Aubrey's class. We created a breakout room tracker. And so what I did was I made one slide and then I copied and pasted that slide to have 6 breakout rooms. As you can see, this is a screenshot, so I can't zoom in, but I've numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So when kids go into their breakout rooms, they go to the number of the group that is their breakout slide. Okay, then the prompt here was I asked them to look at an infographic in Spanish, and I asked them to look at an article in Spanish, and I wanted them to collaborate together as a group to place an X. So we were looking at gripe versus resfriado versus COVID-19. And as we're looking at those 3 things, they're identifying symptoms, right? Is fever a symptom? If it is, put an X in the column that it corresponds to. So I can very quickly see all of their work on this screen. I can see their little bubbles here. I know who's on what slides. I can pop specifically in those slides and provide feedback, whether it's a typed comment or using Mote, which is an auditory an oral feedback for students, and they can listen to your personalized feedback. And this is a really great way to really kind of jump in and see, like, I'm not in the breakout rooms. It takes a lot of time to pop in and out of the breakout rooms with this. But if I see a group is struggling or maybe not answering the question, I can pop into that breakout room and say, hey guys, what's going on? How can I help you? Do you need assistance? And prompt them along so that you can help each group individually. This has been a game changer for us in terms of being able to monitor student work, being able to see all of our kids collaborating and using resources. And this presentation itself, not this particular one, but the breakout room tracker that Shayna Teacher Lady made is in our resource folder also for you. So if you want to take it and adapt it for your classroom, one of the most important things for this is you're going to put this in grid view. as the teacher. So you're going to, if you go up to view and you can hit grid view, you can see all of the slides at the same time. And that's really powerful to be able to monitor everybody's work at once.
You can also keep your students on track because you can see where their bubble goes. You're like, hey, I think you're actually supposed to be in group 2.
Yeah.
And they'll get back to where they need to go.
Yep.
Oh, great. We have our add-ons for formative assessment and feedback. So these are all, if you're using the Google Suite and you're using Google Docs, Google Slides, these are things that you can simply click on the add-ons button at the top and have access to.
It's super awesome to be able to use Google add-ons because that enables you to not have to leave to use another program. So right here, we've got Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere is an add-on on Google. You can launch polls directly from your slides. So if you would like to answer, right, you can go to pollev.com/CarolineMark694. And we want to know, I have used Mote in class to provide real-time feedback. Have you or have you not?
And then we'll tell you more about Mote in a little bit, but let's see your answers first.
So as you can see, the great thing about Poll Everywhere is that you can create word clouds and embed them directly in so students can share vocabulary words. You can ask questions. You can allow them to type full responses. And those things go directly to your Google Slides. So students can see that real-time situation going on in class, which I think is really powerful. I think we're all missing that, being able to see what's going on all the time with everyone. It looks like the vast majority of people who are using pollev.com/CarolineMark694 to provide an answer are saying no, they have not used Mote for real-time feedback. So I'm excited that Aubrey, some people have, we love Mote. And Aubrey shared this with me and I'm going to.
I tried to share it with her directly and she didn't see my original doc where I was using her as a guinea pig. But she had, it was a presentation that she was the owner of and she had shared with me. And so my kids were in breakout rooms and I was visiting them, leaving them voice conversations. But since she was the original owner, she knew what I had been saying to my students all day long because she got this great, it gives you a report. She was getting these reports that these comments were coming in on her slides and then she'd click it and it was me speaking and telling them how wonderfully they're doing or giving them some constructive feedback, helping them correct little errors. But Mote, we took this directly from Mote. It's very easy and self-explanatory. Just make sure you're typing it in correctly for your Google Chrome search. You're looking for a Chrome extension here. It works with Google Docs, Slides, Sheets, and Google Classroom. It has been such a game changer for me with Google Classroom. Here, in whatever box you have, so if I'm clicking on a comment box in this presentation, there you go. You see that there's going to be the little purple button with the Mote symbol on the right. Now, instead of typing to them, you just click on that button and it starts ticking and you can speak for 1 minute and 30 seconds. When you're done, you click that button one more time or the done button, either one works. And you'll see this, it says click to here. You can either upload it right away or you can edit and listen to yourself. Oh, I don't like what that was and revise if you'd like. But Mote, it's great for individual feedback on a slide, but also using that breakout room organizer. This is, I already saw somebody in the chat say, oh, it's so hard going in and out of breakout rooms. If you have your grid view on and you can see what everyone's doing, then you pick the slide that you need to talk to those participants and then just add that comment. And you can also see that they listen to it. I also use this in Google Classroom to give feedback. And I've noticed that the feedback that I give is more bountiful and it's more personal because I can get through that quicker, right? Speaking. And the students have actually told me that they prefer it too because they feel like I'm there with them and I'm explaining it to them, and they can also keep their eyes on their task and just listen to me talk instead of bouncing back, reading this and then trying to find what she's talking about. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend that you check out Mote.
saw in the chat, somebody asked about Nearpod or was it Nearpod or Pear Deck or Go Formative? I can't remember. I saw it a few messages ago. But man, we love Nearpod.
Yeah, Nearpod, I have loved Nearpod for years, but then with this virtual transition, it's wonderful because you can play live or assign, make it student paced, which is fantastic. Again, you're going to get score reports. So it's awesome to see where your kids are, where they need help, and also for you to reflect on your teaching. How well am I getting this across? Do I need to tweak it? But our big thing was with it as an add-on in Google Slides. The other day during Caroline's planning, she started doing a few slides on Nearpod, and I was able to pick it up then during my planning and go in. I could see what she put, and in the same presentation, I didn't have to make a copy. Same presentation, I just picked up another slide and figured out I wanted to do a time to climb game, and I was doing that. And then she joined me and started making the VR trips to airports. So it is very easy to collaborate with another teacher too to get the Nearpod constructed.
We also want to talk just a little bit really quickly. I know we're close to our time here sharing with you guys today, but we talk about beyond the walls. And Aubrey and I have been very fortunate to be able to work alongside each other, teaching the same content this year, Spanish 3, 4, and 5. And we've been able to make collaborative connections within our classrooms, and then as well as Happy World Foundation. So we'll share very quickly what we're doing in our classes, and then we'll open up some time for some question and answer.
So it's important to connect with another teacher first, of course, right? And you want to coordinate everything with this person for your specific lesson. It's usually a 2-day thing to get the prep work done and then do something either live or just everything is ready at the same time. You're going to share an identical lesson of materials, keep the same exact timeline. And then you create and post the student materials. Caroline, do you want to tell them about some of the stuff that we did?
Wow, we have... So if I am with, are you there? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So Aubrey and I started a lesson with our Spanish 5, and we started looking at the Vivir Juntos Familia unit in level 5, looking at the idea of family, looking at expanding and kind of going outside to have conversations about what's going on in terms of who is family, what does family mean? And we wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my computer here. So I'm like fighting my computer as I'm trying to explain this. There we go. So we would create and post materials. So what we wound up doing is we shared a video with kids. The students watched the video, Vivir Juntos, and they were able to get an idea of something that we were looking for, right? Looking at family, looking at values. Then we asked students to create their own videos about what family meant to them in collaborative groups. Okay, as they created those videos, we as teachers uploaded those videos. Aubrey and I shared those videos to the exact same Google presentation. So I had 3 groups and I had 3 videos groups. Aubrey had 4 groups and her 4 videos for her groups. They're all in the same Google Slides presentation. Okay, then we shared with our students a document that looked like this, right? So it just pushed it to Google Classroom, made a copy for each of our kids. There were the groups on the left-hand side, right? That aligned with the videos that they were watching on the Google Slides. And then they're seeing, they say, the synthesis of what they were seeing, the video, and the ideas that the group were giving out during their video presentation. And so they had to watch all 7 videos, right? And synthesize the information that was shared in those videos to give us an idea of what they were talking about. This allowed us to set the kind of like cornerstone for what we want to eventually do with our kids, which we're actually going to do on Monday. But it allowed our kids to kind of meet each other. It lowered that affective filter for our kids in terms of the maybe being a little nervous about talking to another group of students. You know, my kids have been with me for 4 years. They're my babies. My Spanish 5 kids are my babies, and they know each other really well because we've all had class together, but they don't necessarily know the students at Boonesboro High School. And so, you know, we wanted them to be able to get to know each other so that they felt confident and comfortable when they had to actually speak to each other.
So this is where we headed then. We're going to actually do a live Zoom with both groups on Monday, but to set up everything that we were doing, we wanted to make sure the kids were comfortable, they knew all the expectations, and I think we're going to be able to do this pretty well. I think it's going to go off and be so successful. They seem really excited. But so we created and shared an agenda with students at least one day before. So that was actually just yesterday for us, for Friday. We included a hyperlink to the shared Zoom, and Caroline and I are going to be co-hosts on Monday. We fully disclosed the goal, the expectations, and the order of activities that we are going to do on Monday. So there are no surprises, and the kids can be really comfortable with certainty. They know exactly how it's going to flow. We're going to greet the students, review the agenda, and provide separate breakout rooms for each class. So Boonesboro will go in breakout room 1, Smithsburg in breakout room 2, and then we'll give them some time by themselves, but Caroline will go to breakout room 2 and I'll go to breakout room 1 to make sure our students are prepared, that they're comfortable, and just to guide them a little bit. Finally, we're going to come back with the last about 10 minutes of class, and we are going to present our arguments, our presentations to both sides, to the full audience. While Smithsburg, you can see on the first side, they were filling out the purple column as their note taker, and they have the blue column blank. They're waiting for my kids to actually speak to them and to hear the presentation, and they're going to take the notes from Boonesboro's side. They're going to end up with such a rich experience and have multiple perspectives and takes on this theme and topic, and we're so excited about the whole experience.
I think that just goes back to what Patrick was saying. Again, find your partner. Is it somebody that's in your building? Is it somebody that's across the state? Is it somebody that's at another building but in your county and you guys are on board with the same experiences? You don't have to teach the same content, and this doesn't even have to be the same level. You could have Spanish 2 kids with Spanish 3 kids. It just depends on what it is that you're doing and the comfortable connections, the collaborative connections that you make with other teachers in your building or wherever that other teacher may be. But find your partner and use your partner to empower yourself and your students to reach levels of languages that they may not have if they didn't have opportunities like this to speak to each other. Happy World Foundation is a great foundation. If you want more information about that, you can click on a link here. It brings guest speakers into your classroom from around the world. It's an incredible foundation. Akash Patel is an amazing human. He does amazing things for languages, and he is well decorated with awards for the fact that he does create these amazing connections. So if you're interested in bringing guest speakers into your classroom, it's literally as easy as sending Akash a message on Facebook and saying, hey, I need a speaker on Friday at 9. There is a presentation linked at the bottom there in terms of how to use Happy World Foundation if that's something that you're interested in. Oops, I didn't mean to click on that, I'm sorry. At this point, we are reaching our objectives, and I know we're right at 12 o'clock. So we have lots of questions I'm sure to answer, but we just wanted to make sure that we've done our job here in best practice, and we can adapt our old tricks to increase student engagement and also adapt instruction to meet the needs of our digital learners. Here we are. The link to our presentation will be sent out. The bit.ly down at the bottom is a link to our resource folder.
All right, thank you, Caroline and Aubrey. I know that we are giving you all a virtual round of applause for an incredible presentation, engaging, dynamic, and certainly is giving us a lot to think about and pause and reflect on what we're doing in our classroom. So we are indeed at the 12 o'clock mark. So for the next 15 minutes, we're changing just a little bit. We will do the chat and chew right now. We have a series of questions to share with you. Some technical questions related to annotations, poll everywhere, and things like that. And some questions that are a little bit deeper. One recurring question that I saw is regarding the resources. So I want to put everyone at ease. Resources will be sent and will be shared in a follow-up email for all the presentations. So here's question number 1. This is regarding the annotation tools. I think that this came as a new tool for many of our participants. So if you could maybe go over how to, where to find the annotation tool and how to use it in the classroom, that would be great.
The annotation tool, you have to make sure that you are sharing your screen first, or you won't see that coming up as an option. I know on the bottom of my screen, there are normally 3 dots that I click on, and I can get my annotations up there, and I can also choose where it says click to see annotators' names, and that's a setting that I use. Is there anything that you would like to add about that setting?
No, not necessarily. I think that covers it. When you're in your Zoom, you need to make sure that you just are able to just, it's usually under the, it depends on what mode you're in, but if you allow, you have to be sharing your screen to annotate. So it's not going to pop up if you're not sharing your screen. So if you hit share screen, then you can allow annotations. But if you're not seeing that in Zoom, you need to go into your actual settings in Zoom and allow annotation. That's a lot of people don't allow it because they don't want kids just jumping on and drawing on their screen in the middle of a class session. But when you want to use the annotation tool, if you don't have the setting checked that you can use annotation in the actual settings, like on the Zoom website under your account, the annotation tool will not pop up. So you need to make sure that in your settings that's marked, and then you will pop up under the more and it'll click annotate, and then it'll bring up a series of tools on your screen.
Right, thank you. At this time, my co-moderator is going to ask you the next question. So Yvonne, you go ahead. Okay, I'm not hearing Yvonne, so I'm going to ask the next question.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What if a student abused the annotation options during class? What would you do?
I think it's very important that you choose show annotators' names right away. So I would practice with colleagues first. If it's your first round, get in a Zoom with somebody, make sure you share your screen and that you can find quickly how to put show annotators' names, because I make sure I have that up before anybody's annotating. It's very easy. You're seeing things in real time, and you can see the name. Everybody can see the name of the person who is annotating. So if something were to start to occur, you can say, right away, Lisa, and they don't know at first, I think, unless you tell them, we are going to see your name come up. We'll see everything that you're writing or typing. It will be tagged to you. So I think having that extra little piece of accountability really helps. But otherwise, you can quickly clear the screen and push them into a breakout room or the waiting room if that's easier for you. And both have options where you can either send a broadcast message to them if they're in the breakout room by themselves, or in the waiting room, you can send a message and you can make sure that they know, what your expectation is and that they crossed a line. And if they want to continue with class, you will allow them in, but that's their last chance. And otherwise they will be removed to the waiting room for the rest of the lesson. And you'll have to contact administrators and parents if it's something that you feel is serious.
Thank you, Aubrey. And on a related topic, it's can you turn off the annotation tool when you want, or does it stay on for the entire time?
So you cannot turn, once you have the annotations tool on in settings, you cannot turn it off. You have to go into your actual settings. So if you only want it for that class, the annotation only on for that class, I believe that once it's on until you go into your settings on Zoom and turn it off. So that is something to work around. I'll be honest, since the beginning of school, it's been 6 weeks now of virtual learning. I have not had a single issue with annotation at all. So I think if you establish those hard lines, like Aubrey was saying, then I think that your kids are going to respond to the right way.
Thank you. On a different topic, about the fly swatter activity, the one you presented today, Question from one of our participants. I wonder if an activity like this one might lead to the reinforcement of certain cultural stereotypes.
Of the pictures?
I am assuming, yes.
So we use that as an example, just the places, just because we thought that they would be easily recognizable. I can try and show you the one that's in the resource folder. If you look in the resource folder when you get there, we just did that particular one just to show you. We weren't in any way trying to, but it also gives you, I guess it gives you a chance to dispel stereotypes too. You can talk about those and confront those. I mean, I wouldn't see it as I don't want to try and perpetuate stereotypes. My job as a language educator is to diminish the idea of stereotypes. So if there are those stereotypes and biases, we need to confront them and have those hard conversations with kids and explain to them. I mean, we're the safe space where they're able to do that. And so I would never use images that I would, intend to use specifically to perpetuate any type of stereotype at all. We just wanted easy locations for people to identify. But in the event that that is the case, I think it is our job as language teachers to address those things.
And I think, while they're educating, you can speak the whole time through it. So if it seems like there is an issue or something's not going over how you wanted it to go, or it's not being interpreted the way that you were hoping, exactly what Caroline was saying, I mean, in real time, you can be having those discussions as the students are interacting. And again, that slide was just for our world language teachers trying to do something quick in our limited time, and something that we thought many people would be able to recognize a product of a specific culture.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question here, and it is, if by any chance you have any tips to help students stay in the target language when they are in collaborative groups.
It's definitely a challenge for sure. When you jump into breakout rooms, mine is a mixed bag. Sometimes I jump into breakout rooms and the kids are in Spanish, and then sometimes I jump into breakout rooms and the kids are speaking in English. But I think the important part for us to remember right now, I don't have any specific tips, but the resources that I'm providing my kids to talk about in their breakout rooms, whether they're talking about it in English or in Spanish, they're talking about whatever the resource was that was in Spanish. So there's an interpretation that's going on there, and the ability to converse, whether it's in Spanish or English in those breakout rooms for 5 minutes, I don't think it diminishes what they're learning from the content. I do think that you should, I pop in, and sometimes yesterday in one of my breakout rooms, I was like, okay, they were working on some collaborative questions, and I popped in and I was like, okay, so in, the second question, of course, I'm in the target language, but I'm like, in the second question, what do you think the answer is to this? And I'm speaking to them in Spanish, and they responded to me in Spanish, which I appreciated. So I think you just have to prompt them. We can't monitor what's going on in the breakout rooms like we could in our classrooms. And we all know in our classrooms, 100% of the time, the same issue exists. So you have to make sure that you're just supporting them when you can. I don't have any specific tip. Aubrey?
As long as you let your students know what your expectations are and what you're really looking for, and what makes you happy to hear or witness, it really helps them to adapt. And so I first spoke about some of the breakout rooms I went in initially were kind of quiet. They were new courses. They had never had me before. They were mixed grade levels. And I started the expectation like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I jumped into breakout room 2, and they were all talking and they were unmuted. And you know what, guys, that is what I want to hear. Like, I love that. That was so fantastic. I think it's also more natural for us when you get in your breakout room. If your camera's not on, okay, but unmute yourself if you're not in a noisy atmosphere, because you're more apt to just speak how you normally would and give each other feedback, or say, I'm not sure what this means, or I think this is that. And after I had that conversation with my students, when I popped into my breakout rooms, they were not quiet, they were speaking. So I think the same thing goes with talking about the language. You can emphasize, guys, I really want to hear Spanish or French whenever I'm popping in or out, or whatever language you're teaching. And many of the kids do want to rise to your expectations, and being able to switch up breakout rooms too. As long as you end up with some leaders, the other students are going to follow too.
I think also too, when you use that breakout room tracker, if you're using the Google Slides to see what's going on, if I've written a prompt in Spanish for the students are using Spanish to answer that prompt. So I can watch what they're typing. I can go in and provide feedback to them. Like Aubrey said earlier, I can highlight something and send them a little comment, let them know, or I can use Mote if you are allowed to use those add-ons. I can say like, hey, you might want to think about looking at that. You know, we were talking about the idea of, for Spanish teachers, hubo versus había, when you're describing what happened, you know, and so maybe someone said había un incendio, like there was a fire, but that's not actually how we do it. So I highlighted it and say, is this right? What do you think needs to happen here? Like, how do we explain this? Is this detail? Is this whatever? And so you can provide that feedback on their language that's written more easily because your prompt is in Spanish. So I like the breakout room tracker to track their conversations. Even if I'm asking them to speak, you can just put 6 blank Google Slides, put 6 numbers on them, send to the breakout room tracker and tell them as they're having a conversation, type some thoughts in, you know, that might help monitor it. No, but it is tricky.
Thank you so much.
Your output in the language, there's success.
Thank you both. I'm looking at the time, so I'm screening through the questions. I know we won't get to all of them, but here's one that I think is on many people's minds. How do you manage breakout rooms, right? Whether you are using Zoom, whether you are using Google Meet, whatever platform you are using, does your county require an adult supervisor in each of the breakout room? And I know you shared the breakout room note taker. What other tricks do you have to manage those rooms?
So in our county, we do not have to have at the high school level an adult in any given breakout room. What I make sure to do when we're in breakout rooms is always randomly pop into different breakout rooms at different times. I'm never following a specific order. I'm jumping in to see what they're saying. Sometimes I just turn off my camera and off my microphone and I just jump in and listen. And if I feel, most of the time they don't even know that you're there, you know, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, senora, like, hey, you know, so I use that to monitor breakout rooms. I'm never, if my kids are in a breakout room, you can guarantee I'm in one of them while they're in it. And I can watch what's going on in the other ones and they're in the tracker. But I mean, other than that, it is a challenge. And it's definitely, I know some school systems don't even allow, if you're not going to have an adult in a breakout room, they don't even allow you to use them. Another quick trick, though, not that I have 6 devices hanging out in my classroom, but you can join and make yourself a co-host on another device. And then if you want to be in 2 breakout rooms at one time, you can kind of navigate. So depending on how many devices you have, you can play around with how many breakout rooms you're in at one time.
I think another thing with the breakout rooms, make sure your students know that there is an ask for help button, and that if you make it so that they can also rejoin the main room, from their breakout room, they can come and get you or alert you or get out of a situation that they don't want to be in. So I think that's very helpful. But again, that's something that you need to put out there at the beginning for your students and say, hey, do you know where this ask for help button is? I want you to use that anytime that you need help with directions or understanding something, or if you just feel like you need my presence in there for a reason. Same thing, I keep my Google and my email up during that time. And, you know, if you're uncomfortable, you can send me a private message or an email, that'll pop up, or just leave and they can come right back to my main room. So then they're not in that situation, or they can inform me of something if they feel that they need to.
Deborah Spitia in the chat mentioned something interesting, and I never really thought of it, but logging in, I don't know if you can log into Zoom on multiple tabs and then switch through. I've never thought of that. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can, because it's using the same camera. So I don't think you can log in at the same time, but I would be interested to try that to see, like, can I open multiple tabs and then just switch through the tabs and log in? I'm imagining the answer is no, but it's a curious thought for exploration.
Thank you both. All right, Yvonne, I'll let you choose the last question.
Yes, we have the last question, and it will be, how do you get international guest speakers approved to come into the virtual classroom? is the Office of School Security. They said it is a definite no. What is the loophole to get approval?
So I think that's a very county specific question. But what Happy World Foundation is an agency that has volunteers from all over the globe. And I think that if you present that information and the learning opportunity that can take place with regard to bringing in an international speaker to support the interpersonal communication skills that you're trying to empower your students to use, I think if you had a good enough conversation you had your argument presented like that, it is a program. This is not me saying like, oh, I met this guy in Italy, I want him to come talk to my class, right? So that's not acceptable. Akash Patel, who is the founder of Happy World Foundation, he vets volunteers from around the globe that he knows. It's a wonderful program, and I imagine that if you had to go around some kind of loophole. I don't know that there's a loophole. I think this program is valid and vetted, and I think the volunteers that work in the program are just that they're, they're okay to have in your classroom. I know that
to share that information with your administrator. So bring up the webpage or even contact Akash and have the Happy World Foundation stuff right there for your conversation. If you don't have Facebook, I think I would actually recommend, if you want to use Happy World, just make a professional account to do that, because it's also not just, you don't know who you're getting or who's going to show up or when or anything like that in your Zoom. He makes sure that he matches you, and before the visitor ever comes to your Zoom, he puts you guys together in a group message to introduce you. So he gave an introduction to me. He told them what I was doing, what I was looking for, my location, that I was a Spanish teacher. And then he introduced me to my guest and told me her profession, where she was coming from, and all of that. And then we were able to have a back and forth conversation. It was wonderful. We could interact just one-on-one beforehand. I could also click on her profile and check out her page and see, does this look like a legit person? And this was my first year doing it, and I was 100% comfortable before actually entering the Zoom with my students.
I had done a presentation on Happy World Foundation. What I will do is I will make sure to put that link to that presentation in the resource folder so that you guys have access to that. If you want to learn more about Happy World Foundation, you can check out that presentation, and it'll walk you through the steps of getting a guest speaker in your class. Rachel Daly, our 2021 Teacher of the Year, just put in the comments, and we're proud colleagues of Rachel, so we're super proud of her. Just throw that out there. She's shared that students are never alone with Happy World guest speakers. So a reminder that you are in the room, you are the professional in the room, you have control of the Zoom session, you have the ability to kick someone out. So you're never sending your kids alone with a stranger, and we're not doing that virtually either. So that's a very good point, Rachel. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, thank you again.
You're so welcome.
And Caroline, for a phenomenal session. Thank you to all our participants for being engaged, for responding in the chat, for playing along, for sharing resources. I see that some people were dropping links, dropping hints. Here's what I'm doing. This is what's working. So at this point in time, I'm going to pass the mic virtually back to our Vice President and Chair of the Conference Committee, who's going to let you know about next steps. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Caroline and Aubrey for, as we said, a fantastic session.